All right, thank you very much. Hello, everybody. It's your good friend Possible here, and I'm back in action with another look at a very different kind of movie. For this particular movie review, I want to take you back. When you look at the world we have today, with all the internet and iPhones and, technology being everywhere and cameras, it's important to remember where it all came from. And this is not just 1 year where it came from. This is nothing really special. But it was one of those foundational. This is the time we were digging for those kind of things. Remember, the technology for your iPhone, from what I understand, according to one source of mine, came out around 1983. And of course, it had to be developed and all that during that time. But this particular movie brings us to 1985. Now, 1985 was a very awesome year. The 80s were just an awesome decade altogether. And in this particular session, we have The Last Dragon. This was truly a transitional movie. Because on the one hand, you have the past. You have a man who loves Kung Fu, practices Kung Fu a lot, and you have a lot of references to Enter the Dragon, the Bruce Lee classic. You also have a lot going on when it comes to music videos and 1980s technology. Remember, in the 1980s, all this technology was still new back then. So we were still trying to do as much as we could with it. We were trying to have humongous, a person's face being on boards that were the size of walls. That was a new idea. Music videos were becoming very, very popular. So this guy, the villain, I should say, he had a girlfriend who he would want to make a star, and in order to do that, he had to get this one lady play his girlfriend's music video. She wasn't going to do that, so she needs protection. And the first protection she gets is from a mysterious stranger, the guy in front of you, who comes in and saves her with his kung fu. How does this guy walk around without getting beat up all the time? I will never know. He looks like a Chinese worker, and the kind that you could want to beat up all the time. No offense to the Chinese, mind you. But the way he was dressed was just outrageous. I couldn't believe what I was seeing with his outfit. He even ate his popcorn using chopsticks. And of course, everyone was watching Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon. And if you ever saw Enter the Dragon, then you know that the timing was all wrong. Like, it starts off with the battle between Bruce Lee and that tall guy. And then, literally a minute or two later, it's the final battle sequence, which they do at the end of this movie as well. He's a big Kung Fu addict. He likes to practice Kung Fu. That's how we first meet him. And remember, when you see this movie, and you see him practicing his Kung Fu, and an arrow flies by him and he chops it, this was 1985. So yes, he really chopped it. It took him 2 hours to do it, but the point is, that was not CGI. Today they would CGI it, but back then we didn't have the technology. It would have looked cartoonish. Believe me, CGI was not even heard of back then. So this guy actually has his own situation. He wants to understand how to become a master. He wants to understand how to achieve the glow, when all of a sudden your whole spirit just emulates and you become immortal. And apparently you can also heal faster and everything. He learns how to be a master and everything. Good action, funky acting, and very bizarre script writing. But then again, it was the 80s. This is what we expected from our superhero movies. The one reason that they made this movie, according to the director on the DVD, they do the commentaries. He said they wanted to do this because they wanted a black superhero. They see all these movies, they see all these superheroes, but they don't see a lot of black superheroes. So that's why they made this movie, so they could finally have a black superhero again. Very well done. It's so funny. There's this one kid in there who was very popular in the 80s, very fun to watch. I forget his name offhand. He's still making movies today. That's the weirdest part. If you ever look at this movie, you can see what it was like almost 30 years ago and what has transpired since then. But this movie was definitely good. You gotta expect it's gonna be cheesy. It's gonna have really bizarre elements to it, but in the end, it's just a fun Kung Fu flick. The way they could make back in those days. That we just don't seem to have that kind of magic like they did back then. So if you haven't had a chance, the forgotten classic for this week, The Last Dragon, is definitely a see it. Alright guys, that's it for me today. We'll see you at the theaters.